The moment Jack Mercer pulled his truck to the side of that rain-slicked highway, he had no idea his entire world was about to change. As the female officer approached his window, something in her eyes triggered a memory so powerful it nearly stopped his heart. If you've ever believed in fate, in those 1 in a million chances that defy explanation, this story might just restore your faith in the universe's grand design. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying these real-life stories of extraordinary coincidences, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales that remind us how connected we all truly are. Jack Mercer had been driving the same stretch of highway for 15 years. As a single father to 11-year-old Lily, his life followed a predictable routine: wake up at 5 a.m., prepare Lily's lunch, drop her at his sister's house, then make the 90-minute commute to the construction site where he worked as a foreman. The monotony of the drive gave him too much time to think about everything he'd lost: his wife Emma, who died during childbirth, and the daughter they had planned to adopt before Emma's pregnancy surprised them both. That adoption had been nearly complete when Emma discovered she was pregnant with Lily. The agency had already matched them with a newborn girl, but with Emma's unexpected pregnancy, they reluctantly withdrew, hoping the baby would find another loving home. That rainy Tuesday morning seemed no different from any other. The rhythmic swish of windshield wipers kept time with the country song playing softly on the radio. Jack sipped his coffee, mentally reviewing the day's tasks at the construction site. The highway was unusually empty, the storm keeping most commuters at home. Through the downpour, Jack spotted flashing lights ahead. A police cruiser was parked on the shoulder, its lights cutting through the gray morning. As he approached, he saw a female officer struggling to change a flat tire, the rain soaking through her uniform. Jack had been raised to help others in need. His father, a Vietnam veteran with an unwavering moral compass, had drilled into him that character was defined by what you did when no one was watching. Without hesitation, Jack pulled over, grabbing his rain jacket from the back seat. As he approached the officer, he called out so as not to startle her. "Need some help with that tire, officer?" The woman turned, pushing wet strands of dark hair from her face. "That would be amazing, actually. Thank you." Her voice carried a slight tremor, whether from the cold rain or something else, Jack couldn't tell. He knelt beside her, taking the lug wrench from her hands. Their fingers brushed briefly, and Jack felt an inexplicable jolt of recognition. When he looked up to introduce himself properly, the words died in his throat. Those eyes. He knew those eyes. The same unusual shade of amber green he'd seen only once before, in a photograph of a newborn baby girl that Emma had carried in her wallet for months after they'd withdrawn from the adoption. The same photograph he still kept in his bedside drawer, unable to part with the memory of what might have been. "Are you okay, sir?" the officer asked, concern etching her features. Her name badge read, Officer K. Mitchell. Jack couldn't speak. His mind raced through impossible calculations. The baby would be 26 now, the same age this officer appeared to be. The timing matched. But what were the odds? 1 in millions? Billions? "Sir," she repeated, her hand moving instinctively toward her service weapon, clearly concerned by his strange behavior. "I'm sorry," Jack finally managed. "You just remind me of someone." He forced himself to focus on the tire, working methodically despite his trembling hands. "I'm Jack. Jack Mercer." The name didn't seem to register with her. Of course it wouldn't, he told himself. If this was indeed the baby they had almost adopted, she would have no reason to know his name. She would have been adopted by another family, given another life, another history. "Catherine Mitchell," she replied, relaxing slightly. "Most people call me Kate. Thanks for stopping." Not many would in this weather. As Jack worked on changing the tire, they exchanged small talk. Kate had been on the force for 4 years. She'd grown up in Riverdale, just 30 miles from where Jack lived. She mentioned being adopted, and Jack's heart hammered against his ribs. When she spoke of her adoptive parents with obvious love, he felt a complex mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that she'd found a good home, sadness for all the years he'd missed. "All done," Jack announced, tightening the last lug nut. "Should get you to a garage, but I wouldn't drive on it too long." "I can't thank you enough," Kate said, offering her hand. When Jack stood and took it, something passed between them, a current of connection neither could explain. "You know, most people speed past a cop with a flat. You're a rare kind of person, Mr. Mercer." "Jack," he corrected automatically. "And I'm just doing what anyone should do." Kate smiled, and Jack saw Emma in that smile, not because they looked alike, but because there was the same warmth, the same genuine quality that had made him fall in love with his late wife. "Well, Jack, I owe you one. Drive safely." Jack returned to his truck, watching in the rearview mirror as Kate pulled back onto the highway. His hands shook as he reached for his phone, nearly dropping it twice before managing to call his sister. "Beth? It's me. I need you to look after Lily tonight. There's something I have to do." That evening, Jack sat at his kitchen table surrounded by old documents, the adoption papers they'd started but never completed, the single photograph of the newborn they'd almost called their daughter. The baby had been born to a teenage mother who wanted her child to have opportunities she couldn't provide. The adoption agency had been called New Horizons, located in the same county where Officer Mitchell had said she grew up. It was too much to be coincidence. Yet Jack knew he couldn't simply approach a police officer and claim to be the man who almost became her father. He needed to be certain, and he needed to be respectful of the life she'd built without him. For 3 days, Jack could think of nothing else. He drove to work in a daze, performed his duties mechanically, and returned home to pore over the old documents. On the 4th day, he gathered his courage and called New Horizons Adoption Agency. To his surprise, they were still in operation. After explaining his situation, he was transferred to a senior case manager who had been with the agency for over 30 years. "Mr. Mercer, I remember your case," the woman said after he'd explained who he was. "It was unusual because you and your wife were so far along in the process before withdrawing." "The baby," Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. "Do you know what happened to her?" "I can't disclose specific information about adoptees without their consent," the case manager explained gently. "But I can tell you that the baby girl was placed with a wonderful family within weeks of your withdrawal. A police officer and a kindergarten teacher." Jack's heart skipped. A police officer. Her adoptive father was in law enforcement? "Yes," the woman confirmed. "They raised her in Riverdale. That's all I can share without violating confidentiality." It was her. It had to be her. Jack thanked the case manager and hung up, his mind racing. What now? Should he try to find Kate again? Would she want to know about the family that had almost been hers? Would it only disrupt her life to learn about the strange twist of fate that had brought them together on that rainy highway? For weeks, Jack wrestled with these questions. He drove more slowly on the highway each morning, hoping to glimpse Kate's patrol car, but never saw her. He considered visiting the police station but feared coming across as a stalker. Meanwhile, he found himself telling Lily about the officer he'd helped, about the strange feeling he'd had upon meeting her. Lily, with a child's simple wisdom, asked the question that had been haunting him, "If she's the baby you and Mom almost adopted, doesn't that make her kind of like my sister?" The question struck Jack like a physical blow. In all his turmoil over whether to contact Kate, he hadn't fully processed what this might mean for Lily, a connection to the mother she'd never known, a link to the family they might have been. "In a way," Jack answered carefully. "But she has her own family, her own life. We can't just barge into that." "But what if she wants to know us too?" Lily persisted. "What if she's lonely?" Jack had no answer for that. The possibility that Kate might welcome knowing about them hadn't fully registered. He'd been so focused on not disrupting her life that he hadn't considered she might find value in the connection. The decision was taken out of his hands 2 months later. Jack was at a hardware store, selecting lumber for a backyard project, when he heard a familiar voice ask for assistance finding wood stain. He turned to see Kate in civilian clothes, looking just as surprised to see him as he was to see her. "Jack Mercer," she said, recognition lighting her features. "The Good Samaritan from the highway." "Officer Mitchell," he replied, his heart pounding. "Nice to see you again." "Kate, please," she corrected. "I'm off duty, as you can see." She gestured to her jeans and sweatshirt. "Building something?" "A treehouse for my daughter," Jack explained, finding it suddenly difficult to maintain eye contact. "She's 11. Always wanted one." "That's sweet," Kate said. "My dad built me one when I was about that age. One of my favorite childhood memories." The mention of her father gave Jack an opening. "You're close with your parents?" Kate's expression softened. "Very. They're amazing people. My dad just retired from the police force last year, that's partly why I became a cop. And my mom taught kindergarten for 30 years. Jack felt lightheaded. Every detail confirmed what he already knew. This was her, the baby they'd almost adopted, now grown into a confident young woman standing before him. Should he tell her? The question paralyzed him. "Are you okay?" Kate asked, noticing his discomfort. "You had that same look on your face when we met on the highway." Jack made a split-second decision. "Actually, I'm not okay. There's something I need to tell you, but not here. Would you consider having coffee sometime? It's important." Kate studied him, her police training evident in her careful assessment. After a moment, she nodded. "There's a cafe across the street. I have time now if you do." 20 minutes later, they sat across from each other, steaming mugs between them. Jack had never felt so nervous, not even when proposing to Emma or when Lily was born. He pulled out his wallet and removed the worn photograph he'd carried for 26 years. "Before I explain, I want you to know that I'm not expecting anything from you," Jack began. "I just think you deserve to know about a connection that might mean something to you. Or it might not, and that's okay too." He slid the photograph across the table. Kate picked it up, confusion evident on her face as she studied the image of a newborn baby girl. 26 years ago, my late wife Emma and I were in the process of adopting a baby girl through New Horizons Adoption Agency, Jack said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "We were weeks away from finalizing the adoption when Emma discovered she was pregnant with our daughter Lily. We had to make the heartbreaking decision to withdraw from the adoption process." Kate's eyes widened as she looked from the photograph to Jack's face. "Are you saying?" "The baby in that photo was born on April 12, 1999, Jack continued. "She was placed with a police officer and a kindergarten teacher who lived in Riverdale." Kate's hand trembled as she set down the photograph. "That's my birthday. And my parents." Her voice trailed off as the implications sank in. "When I saw you on the highway that day, something about your eyes reminded me of this photograph," Jack explained. "It seemed impossible, but I couldn't shake the feeling. I called the adoption agency, and while they couldn't confirm your identity specifically, they confirmed enough details that I became convinced." Kate sat in stunned silence, processing this revelation. Jack waited, giving her space to absorb the shock. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've always known I was adopted. My parents were always open about it. They told me my birth mother was very young, that she wanted me to have opportunities she couldn't provide." Kate looked up, meeting Jack's gaze. "But they never mentioned that there was another family before them." "The agency probably didn't tell them," Jack said gently. "Our withdrawal was late in the process but before any final paperwork was signed. Your parents are your real parents, Kate. Emma and I were just people who might have been in your life." Kate nodded slowly, still processing. "Why are you telling me this now?" Jack took a deep breath. Because I believe in honesty. Because my daughter Lily deserves to know about the connections in her life. And because... He paused, searching for the right words, because Emma would have wanted you to know that you were loved and wanted, even by people who never got the chance to be your family. Tears welled in Kate's eyes, but she blinked them back with the composure of someone accustomed to staying strong. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Jack assured her. This is a lot to take in. If you want to walk away and never speak of this again, I'll understand completely. I just felt you deserved to know. Kate was quiet for a long moment, turning the photograph over in her hands. Can I keep this? She finally asked. Of course, Jack replied, surprised and touched by the request. I'd like to think about all this, Kate said. Maybe talk to my parents about it. But... She hesitated, then continued with determination, I think I'd like to meet your daughter sometime. If that's okay with you. Relief and joy washed over Jack. She'd like that very much. She's been asking about you since I told her about our meeting on the highway. They exchanged phone numbers, promising to be in touch once Kate had time to process everything. As they parted ways outside the cafe, Kate surprised Jack with a quick, awkward hug. Thank you for stopping that day, she said. Not just for the tire, but for seeing me. 3 weeks passed before Jack heard from Kate again. When his phone rang on a Sunday afternoon, he answered to find not just Kate but her adoptive parents as well, calling to invite him and Lily to dinner the following weekend. Kate had shared everything with them, and after their initial shock, they had expressed a desire to meet the man who had almost been their daughter's father. That dinner was the first of many. Over the following months, their families began to intertwine in ways none of them could have predicted. Kate became a big sister figure to Lily, taking her shopping and to movies, helping with homework, and sharing stories about growing up with parents who chose her. Jack found unexpected friendship with Kate's father, bonding over their shared experiences in raising daughters and their mutual love of woodworking. Kate's mother, with her kindergarten teacher's heart, embraced them both with warmth and understanding. On the anniversary of their chance meeting on the highway, Jack and Lily invited Kate and her parents to their home for a special dinner. As they gathered around the table, Jack proposed a toast. To highways and flat tires, he said, raising his glass. To the strange ways fate brings people together. And to family, not just the ones we're born to or the ones who raise us, but the ones we find along the way. Kate smiled across the table, the same amber-green eyes that had stopped him in his tracks now filled with affection and belonging. To family, she echoed, reaching out to squeeze Lily's hand. Later that evening, as Jack stood on the porch watching Kate and her parents drive away, Lily came to stand beside him. Dad, she asked quietly. Do you think Mom knows? About Kate and us finding each other? Jack put his arm around his daughter's shoulders, looking up at the star-filled sky. I think she does, Lily. I think maybe she had something to do with it. Like she sent Kate to us? Lily asked, her young face serious in the porch light. Or sent us to Kate, Jack replied. Either way, I think she'd be happy to see us now. As they turned to go back inside, Jack felt a sense of completeness he hadn't experienced since losing Emma. Their family hadn't turned out the way they'd planned all those years ago, but perhaps it had become exactly what it was meant to be all along. If you've been moved by Jack and Kate's story, remember that connections are waiting to be discovered in the most unexpected places. Sometimes, the people we're meant to find come into our lives in ways we could never anticipate. Hit that like button if this story touched your heart, and subscribe to our channel for more remarkable true stories that remind us how beautifully complex the tapestry of human connection truly is.